Hello, I am David Davis, known on Crappie.com as a Crappie Wrangler. And after having a lot of encouragement to make some videos on some of the things I do, I have acquired a camera and some software, so this will be my first video. So I am going to start with making an ice spoon. So you can either go down to the store and pay $3 or $4 a piece for an ice spoon, or you can buy the blank spoons in a bulk package, or just a few. You can get them from 5 to 1,000. I generally buy a 25 piece package. There's a spoon. I'll show it again under the light here in a minute. Anyway, you can make 25 of them for what just a few of them would cost you at the store. So with that said, let me get started with making or showing how to make a spoon. So here's another view of the spoon here under the light, both sides of it. And when you buy your spoons, it will generally, whoever you order it from will tell you what size hook will go with what size spoon. This spoon requires a number 2 hook, and I have a number 2 hook right here. I prefer the gold hooks because they bend easily. So the first thing I'm going to do is use my standard hemostats to attach to hold the hook in place on the spoon. And these hemostats are curved. This just happens to be what I have. If you have straight hemostats, that will work too. So here it is, the hook being held in place by the set of hemostats. So now I'm going to clamp it to something to hold the spoon parallel to the ground. So that when I start soldering it, the cavity side of the spoon, the solder will pull up and hold the hook in place when it cools. Now usually I do this outside, but it's raining and cold outside, so I'm doing this inside today. So I have underneath me an aluminum pan to catch any solder splatter or flux splatter. And outside I would have this clamped up on my fish cleaning station, but here in the house all I have to clamp it to is upright on my rod wrapper, so I have it clamped to that. Now I'm going to use just a standard flux included solder. Now you can use separate flux and separate solder. I just happen to already have this from when I used to work on circuit boards, and it works well. So, and I'm going to also use a general purpose propane, self-starting propane torch. So I want my flame fairly low. I don't know how well it shows on the video, but a low flame means you don't get your spoon too hot. If you get your spoon too hot, it will discolor the spoon. If the spoon gets hot enough to discolor, not to worry. That one will be a fully painted spoon instead of painted on just one side. So let me start by warming my spoon just a little. and I'll start adding my flux or my solder. Now notice the solder catches on fire. And I'm not going to let it burn too much because I don't want it to get the end of the hook too hot. You can just blow the flux out. It'll just burn for a second. And you'll notice that my hook is still bright and gold, which means I did not get it too hot. If you make the mistake of getting your hook too hot, it will become soft between here and here, and it'll straighten out on you when you are catching a fish and trying to bring your fish up. Now you want it a little soft so that it'll straighten out if you get hung up in the brush, but not soft enough to straighten out while you're fighting a fish. And you can see that I did not get it hot enough on the back side to discolor the hook at all, and I also have no flux on the back side of it. I do have a little flux there. And a little bit of flux will usually just come right off. You scrape it off with your fingernail. So this one came out clean enough that I can leave this side silver if I want to. So after I give it just a minute to cool, I can handle it, and you'll see the hole on the hook gets a little bit of flux in it, and I remove the flux with an old wire form I have left over from when I used to bass fish, but a paper clip will work. The wire form just happens to be pretty stiff, and it'll go right through there. It's the right size. Now if the flux in the eye of the hook has gotten cool before you've run your piece of wire through it, all you have to do is heat up your wire form. Word of caution, don't hold it in your hand when you heat it up. Put that wire form in your hemostats and then heat it up on your torch. With the torch still low, that wire form will glow in just a couple of seconds, and then it'll go through that flux like it was butter. And there you see a nice clean hole. So as we look this one over, it appears to come out pretty good. I've got a little bit of flux on the side here, right here, and a little bit right here, and we want to remove that flux because it'll chip off after you paint it, and then there's your paint chipped off with the flux chipping off. So I was blessed with very hard fingernails, and I can scrape that flux right off with my thumbnail. And so here I have an eye spoon that's ready to paint and then ready to use. This is maybe 3/64 in weight, so it's a pretty light spoon. And I believe I have a painted one here. Here is a little bit larger spoon than I've painted already. Now I dipped it in white vinyl paint first, then I spray painted this side with chartreuse, and if you don't paint it white first, the chartreuse will never be a bright chartreuse. Well, because here in the last couple of years I've caught so many fish on a black and chartreuse jig, I painted the upper portion of this black. So now I have a 3-color spoon: white, black, and chartreuse. And it's not quite done. I'll need to dip it 2 more times in clear vinyl paint to give a good tough coating or surface over this, and then it will be ready to fish with. And now for me, I buy small bags by the 1,000, and I bag these individually, because if they get hot enough, the vinyl paint will stick and 2 lures will stick together, and when you separate them, it'll mess up the paint. So it just takes me a minute to bag them. Anyway, this is my first how-to video. There will be more to come, where I will demonstrate how to make a custom fishing rod from start to finish. If I have to work on the boat, I'll demonstrate working on the boat. Anything from wiring to installing a depth finder. Just about any part of it except the mechanical part. I do have a album on Crappie.com where I've recarpeted an aluminum boat. So thank you for watching, and I will see you again in future videos.